Thumbelina. There once was a woman who wanted so very much to have a tiny little child, but she did not know where to find one. So she went to an old good witch, and she said, "I have set my heart upon having a tiny little child. Please, could you tell me where I can find one?" "That's easily done. Here's a grain of barley for you. Put it in a flower pot, and you'll see what you shall see." "Oh, thank you." She planted the barley seed. As soon as she got home, it quickly grew into a fine large flower, which looked very much like a tulip, but the petals were folded tight, as though it was still a bud. "This is such a pretty flower." The woman kissed its lovely red and yellow petals, and just as she kissed it, the flower gave a loud pop and flew open. In the middle of it sat a tiny girl. She was sweet and fair to see, but she was no taller than a human thumb. Such a pretty child. From now on, I will call you Thumbelina. A nicely polished walnut shell served as her cradle. That was how she slept at night. In the daytime, she played on a table, where the woman put a plate surrounded with a wreath of flowers, on which there floated a large tulip petal. Thumbelina used the petal as a boat, and with a pair of white horsehairs for oars, she could row clear across the plate. She could sing too. Her voice was the softest and sweetest that anyone ever has heard. One night, as she lay in her cradle, a horrible toad hopped in through the window, right down on the table where Thumbelina was asleep, under the red rose petal. "Here's a perfect wife for my son." She seized upon the walnut shell in which Thumbelina lay asleep, and hopped off with it the window and into the garden. The toad lived with her son. He was just like his mother, but slimy and more horrible. There. Don't speak so loud or you'll wake her up. She might get away from us yet. We must put her on one of the broad water lilies out in the street. She is so small and light that it will be just like an island to her. Many water lilies with broad green leaves grew in the stream. The leaf which lay furthest from the bank was the largest of them all, and it was to this leaf that the old toad swam with the walnut shell, which held Thumbelina. The poor little Thumbelina woke up early the next morning, and when she saw where she was, she began to cry bitterly. There was water all around the big green leaf, and there was no way at all for her to reach the shore. Thumbelina sat down and cried. The little fishes who swam in the water beneath her up popped their heads to have a look at the little girl. No sooner had they seen her than they felt very sorry. They gathered around the green stem which held the leaf where she was, and gnawed it in two with their teeth. Away went the leaf down the stream, and away went Thumbelina, far away from where the toad could not catch her. Near the edge of the woods, where she now had arrived, was a large grain field, but the grain had been harvested long ago. Only the dry, bare stubble stuck out of the frozen ground. It was just as if she were lost in a vast forest. Then she came to the door of a field mouse who had a little whole stubble. There this mouse lived, warm and cozy, with a whole storeroom of grain. Poor Thumbelina stood at the door just like a beggar and pled for a little bit of barley because she was hungry like anything. "Oh, you poor little thing! You must come into my warm room and share my dinner. But you must keep my room tidy and tell me stories, for I am very fond of them." Thumbelina did as the kind old field mouse asked, and she had a very good time of it. Few days passed, and one day the field mouse came to Thumbelina. "Soon we shall have a visitor. Once every week my neighbor comes to see me, and he is even better off than I am. If you could only get him for a husband, you would be well taken care of. But he can't see anything. You must tell him the very best stories you know." Thumbelina did not like this suggestion. She would not even consider the neighbor because he was a mole. He paid them a visit. The field mouse talked about how wealthy and wise he was and how his home was more than 20 times larger than hers. As Thumbelina had to sing for him, the mole fell in love with her sweet voice. But he didn't say anything about it yet. He had just dug a long tunnel through the ground from his house to theirs, and the field mouse and Thumbelina were invited to use it whenever they pleased, though he warned them not to be alarmed by the dead bird, which lay in this passage. It was a complete bird with feather and beak. It must have died quite recently when winter set in, and it was buried right in the middle of the tunnel. The mole took a torch of decayed wood. In the darkness, it glimmered like fire. He went ahead of them to light the way through the long, dark passage. When they came to where the dead bird lay, the mole put his broad nose to the ceiling and made a large hole through which daylight could fall. In the middle of the floor lay a dead swallow, with his lovely wings folded at his side and his head tucked under his feathers. Thumbelina felt so sorry for him, but the mole gave the body a kick with his short stumps and said, "Thank goodness none of my children can be a bird. What good is all his chirping when he starves and freezes to death?" Thumbelina kept silent, but when the others turned their back on the bird, she bent over, smoothed aside the feathers that hid the bird's head, and kissed his closed eyes. Maybe it was he who sang so sweetly to me in the summertime. What pleasure he gave me, the dear pretty bird. That night, Thumbelina could not sleep a wink, so she got up and wove a fine, large coverlet set of a bedsheet out of hay, grass that has been dried. She took it to the dead bird and spread it over him so that he would lie warm in the cold earth. "Goodbye, you pretty little bird, and thank you for your sweet songs last summer when the trees were all green and the sun shone so warmly upon us." She laid her head on his breast, and it started her to feel a soft thump, as if something were beating inside. This was the bird's heart. He was not dead. He was only numb with cold. And now that he had been warmed, he came to life again. "Thank you, pretty child. I have been wonderfully warmed. Come on, my dear. You could sit on my back as we can fly away through the green woods. Now that the cold winter is coming, I shall fly far, far away to my home. Won't you come along with me? You can ride on my back." "Yes, I will go with you." She sat on his back. Then the swallow soared into the air, over forests and over lakes. At length, they reached Swallow's home. There, the sun shone far more brightly than it ever does, and the sky seemed twice as high. "This is my home. If you would choose one of those glorious flowers and bloom down below, I shall place you in it, and you will have all that your heart desires." "That will be lovely." Down below was a beautiful garden with lovely white flowers. The swallow flew down with Thumbelina and put her on one of the large petals. How surprised she was to find in the center of the flower a little man. On his shoulders were the brightest shining wings. He was the fairy of the flower. But when he saw Thumbelina, he rejoiced, for she was the prettiest little girl he had ever laid eyes on. So he took off his golden crown and put it on her head. He asked if he might know her name, and he asked her to be his wife. "Yes, I will, only if you bring my mother here, and we three will live happily here," he agreed, and brought Thumbelina a present, a pair of wings. Everyone rejoiced. Soon, Thumbelina mother joins them. "Oh, Thumbelina. You don't know how happy I am to get you back. And they all lived happily ever after. The end. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe our channel and press the bell icon to get future updates. And don't forget to comment.